When was the last time you spoke to her?
It's been a few weeks.
Gran? Mom?
Mom! She called me a few weeks ago. I think she was scared. She thought someone was coming into the house.
Tea?
Do you know where you were, Mum?
I suppose I went out.
What's this?
I was on the property when your grandfather inherited it.
Everything all right, Gran?
I thought this was where it got in.
Who?
Whoever was coming into the house. It's here. Under the bed.
There's nothing under the bed, Mum.
Will you check for me? I can see you.
Definitely came from a personal place. My grandmother had Alzheimer's for a number of years before she passed, and I actually started writing it when I was on a trip to go see her in Japan, and unfortunately this was the first time she couldn't remember who I was, and you know, it had a big impact on me. I think as well because she lived in this house that was I had spent all my childhood summers in, and it had always really scared me as a kid at nighttime. So I had these kind of, you know, nightmares, childhood nightmares associated with the place. So those two things kind of came together in my mind. I mean, I was a very scared child, but I still loved horror films. I mean, the house is supposed to be a safe space, but the films that kind of subverted that. And it wasn't about outside forces invading the home. It was more about like the horrors that already lurked inside your house, or, and by extension, like yourself, right? Like that's the root of psychological horror. The haunted house genre was really useful because your house says so much about you as a person. And so in a way, we had this character who was kind of, she was losing parts of herself, but a lot of it was kind of being engulfed or embodied by her house, you know, and it being representing a lot of things, you know, it being like the last relic of happier times, you know, and the idea that the stuff that you accumulate is kind of becomes, you know, functions as your memories, functions as like what you build your identity on. And the idea of a space that's like warping and becoming something, you know, a familiar space becoming unfamiliar and becoming a really twisted, you know, labyrinth of sorts, and becoming lost in that felt like the right combination of, you know, the thematic concerns as well as something just scary. It kind of draws on Gothic horror as well, you know, the kind of suspension of what's in the mind and what's real and supernatural. I think as well because my grandmother had these rooms upstairs where there are a couple of rooms that were just full of stuff, and I think as she worsened, like her hoarding got worse as well, and I interpret that to mean, I mean, from a poetic sense, that she was trying to like hold on to things as things were slipping away in her mind. It was like a sense of trying to keep something safe or something stable around her. So yes, hence why there's this hoarding room in Relic, and the, you know, the labyrinth really grows from there. It was really important to us not to demonize people with Alzheimer's. And what was important to me was that we do experience the story from Edna's perspective at key points, so that you have you know, a deep compassion for the character. It is a transformation in a way, you know, whether you want to call it a monster or what, you know, we call her the other at the end of the film. And I guess there's a few ideas in there. One of them is the sense of physicalizing decay through the mold growth, and the deterioration of not just your mind, but your body as well, through aging, but also capturing the uncanniness of, you know, someone you love who for a while looks the same but feels like they're becoming someone different on the inside, even if it's, you know, purely unintentional and, you know, physical on their part. And then again at the end of their lives to really see their humanity and fragility. That was really key in designing the monster, that we weren't, or, you know, the other, that we weren't making her too inhuman, you know, or too creature-like, because we really wanted it to relate so starkly to like the most fragile, you know, human form. Horror is an interesting genre because maybe like more traditionally in the mainstream, it hasn't been kind to women, just in the way that, you know, they've depicted women as being often the victim, or there's like a link between like sexualization and violence, or whatever, you know, however you want to interpret it. But I think at the moment it's like super exciting. In a way, I think it's just a product of the fact that there's been more of a focus on, you know, lifting up female voices and, you know, people of color as well. So that's wonderful. And I guess the heart of the matter is that like women love horror. Of course they do. So if you have more female filmmakers, you're going to have more female genre filmmakers. But I think it's just a really exciting space at the moment in general. The idea of what horror is really expanding. I feel like there's always been horror filmmakers who've known that. It's more that the audience perception of what horror is and how artful it can be is really shifting. So that's why I think it's a really exciting space. But yeah, I love the fact that there's a lot more female horror filmmakers in particular. It just, yeah, I mean, I think when I was growing up, I could have, you know, I loved like Mary Herron's American Psycho and stuff like that, but I don't think there was as many kind of female horror directors to look to and go, oh yeah, like I could do that. So yeah, I'm sure we'll just continue to see more equality in that space.